In 2011, I had the blessing of being acquainted with a path that works with the sacred drink of ayahuasca. I'm sure many of you have heard of this tea. I will not go into great detail about it. There is loads of information out there about it. Just very briefly, for those of you who have never heard about it, it is a very powerful tool of knowledge, particularly self-knowledge, in the deepest sense of that. This became my path. Many things in my life began to change after that, and it was the starting point of this journey that ended up with me living in the Amazon rainforest. A year and a half into this journey, in October 2012, I had a dream. I was walking down the stairs of the school where me and one of my brothers attended all our lives, and a friend of mine was there carrying her daughter. In real life, her daughter had passed away a couple of months before in a car accident. So in my dream, I was really so happy to see them together. I kept walking down the stairs, and then my brother comes from behind me, holding me from my shoulders and putting his face right next to mine, our cheeks touching. It was really alive. And he says to me in a very joyous and excited tone, "My little sister, we're all in the same place. Some of us are on one side and some of us are on the other side, but it's all the same place." And he continues saying this over and over, repeating it. "I'm already on the other side, but it's all the same place. One's on one side and others on the other side, but it's all the same place." I mean, he said this in Spanish, but I'm making these videos in English just for the wider audience. Anyway, I woke up super agitated and saying to myself, it's okay, it was a dream. If anything had happened to him, I'd already know. He's okay. I'm always the first one to know when something happens to him. Anyway, although he was on my mind all day, I didn't call him, I didn't write to him. I tried to put it away and think that everything was good and that it was just a dream. The next morning, I was driving my daughter to school and my phone rings. I just knew it. I just knew what that was. My daughter picks it up. It's my mom. Her face goes blank. She hands me the phone. And when my mom says Rodrigo died, the first thing I say is, "I know." And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, no. I mean, I had a dream, whatever. That began a very painful period of our lives. And, well, it broke my heart like nothing ever has broken my heart. I had not seen him in a while. We were living in two very different realities, and I was kind of afraid of the world he lived in. Those who knew him will agree that he was fascinating. He had this adventurous and joyful way about him and his way of being in life. Everything was an adventure for him. He went through some really, and I mean really intense stuff that at that time I'd find scary, but he always lived these things as if he was like in some sort of action movie, just enjoying the ride. He produced me this kind of mix between admiration and fear. I admired his joy and adventurousness and even his fearlessness, until it became scary and we drifted apart. I drifted apart. It hurt me so much when he left. It really did break me, but in a way, it also broke something open, like a thick husk, as if it opened a doorway, starting with a dream, and very much teaching me about love and about following my heart, to listen less to the judge inside me, the part that thinks it knows right and wrong, and be more open to just love and connectedness. I know that if I hadn't been standing on the judgment side of things, I would have seen him more. Anyway, he passed away in the Yucatan Peninsula. He had a very powerful connection with the Mayan culture, a very big passion for Mayan archaeology and wisdom, just like my dad, who had passed a year before him. I went back to the Mayan Peninsula 4 years later. It was New Year's 2016. In the first days of January, I was in the ranch of a dear friend and healer. I was there to receive a treatment that is somewhere between a massage and an acupuncture treatment made with agave needles. I was lying on the massage bed facing upwards in the middle of the treatment, and suddenly I see this tunnel opening right above me. And it was very real. It was as if I was like at the bottom of a well looking up. And then two heads pop in, and it was the face of my brother and my father. It was an incredibly powerful and real vision. I genuinely had never experienced anything like it. And there they are above my face, and they start talking to me, and they say to me that it's time to leave the city, and they say that my inheritance is waiting for me in the jungle. This experience was so strong, so vivid and strong, that I actually took their word for it. I came back to Mexico City, where I had lived all my life, and started planning to leave. I began to sort out my house, speak to the people I worked with. Of course, I assumed that my brother and my father were referring to the jungle in the Mayan Peninsula. It was a big decision. I actually couldn't believe myself that I was actually doing this, but the path seemed to be opening quite smoothly once I made the decision. Everything lined up. I got rid of many things and put the rest of my house in storage, thinking I'd go only with a few things, and once I started settling at my new work in the peninsula and find a house, etc., I'd come back for the rest. My daughter had decided it was time for her to become independent. She gave me her blessing, and a few months later, off I went. Right before actually going to the Yucatan Peninsula, we had planned a trip. A group of friends from this spiritual path that works with ayahuasca. We had planned to go to Israel. We had been planning this for over a year. One of the first places that we visited is the city of Tzfat, where Kabbalists have been living and studying for thousands of years. We did a spiritual work there. It was November 2016, the night of the supermoon. By now, I had been in this ayahuasca path for over 5 years. Had had many experiences up to then, but that night I had this completely new experience. I really had had many powerful visions before, but nothing like this. It was very physical, like a lucid dream. I could really see physically myself inside this space. It was this double tetrahedron forming a star, what they sometimes call the Merkaba. I could see its yellow beams above me, and then ribbons and ribbons of golden letters and red letters, Hebrew letters, raining on top of me. It was a very strong experience. I received many things that night, one of them being that I needed to study the Hebrew alphabet. That trip was, for many of us, a truly life-changing experience. I had very strong feelings of going to live there. I felt there was something there for me. After that trip, back in Mexico, off I go to the Yucatan Peninsula. My house and all my belongings were in storage. I was staying at a friend's house until my new job there kicked off. I was planning to look for a place for myself and then take all my things. So I get there, and time starts going by, and this new job doesn't really kick off. And the truth is that I was starting to panic. I was already thinking if I had not made a super crazy decision, leaving my house and my job, just following this crazy calling. And I was hitting my worst point of angst, and I receive a message. One of my very dear teachers calls me, and she invites me. They make every year these retreats in Brazil, working with the sacred tea. And they were inviting me to come with them as their caretaker. It was perfect. I had nothing to tie me, and I could immediately say yes. So a few months later, there I am, working in this retreat. In one of the works towards the end of the retreat, I received this message from my spiritual guides. They say, don't leave. Stay as long as you can, and go into the rainforest and present yourself to this woman. Now, as you can see, I'm attempting to avoid names and people just out of common respect. Anyway, I obviously knew about this community before. It's the headquarters of the ayahuasca path that I follow. It was founded by a beloved man who passed away, and his family. This woman is his widow, and the matriarch not only of the community, but really of this particular path. Anyway, I had heard many stories about this place, and although I had felt curiosity before, I had not had a particular calling to visit there until this time. The instruction was very clear. I had no idea how I was going to sort that out. 3 days later, a participant of the retreat offers me help without me even asking. He just says, if you want to stay in Brazil longer, I'll lend you money. I received that in my meditation today. So for the first time in my life, I actually had nothing to tie me, no house, no job. My daughter had just become independent. So I did. I stayed there. I changed my flight. I contacted some very dear people that I knew and that live in this community. And a month later, I was on my way. Even today, it seems like an epic journey to go there. I can't imagine back in the days of the foundation of the community what it must have been like. You fly first to this city in the north of Brazil. From there, you take a car into a port town, which is about 4 hours away, in this road that alternates between mud and pavement all along. You arrive at this little port town where you stay the night so that you can leave on one of the boats that leave early in the morning. The boat journey will take you somewhere about 5 hours and 7 hours, maybe more, a bit less it could be. Despite its discomforts, it's a majestic trip. entering the river and going through the endless extensions, deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the green and the green and the green. There is really no way of accurately describing this place. Like anything else that is truly sacred, it is something to be experienced. The energy of the most exuberant symphony of life. I arrived late in the afternoon in the community. Next morning, after breakfast, I walked over to the house of the matriarch. I was just told to go in and present myself, so that's what I did. I came in. She was sitting on her veranda, and one of her daughters she was giving her a foot massage. I sat next to her, and tears just started rolling down my eyes. I could just feel so much love and tenderness in her presence. I stayed there for a while. We talked. She asked me about this ayahuasca path in my country, how it was, that kind of thing. Then her daughter stood up and she said, ask her if she wants you to continue giving her the foot massage. She had to leave. So I did. I asked her. She says yes. And oh my God, the moment I touched this woman's feet, I closed my eyes and I had this vision. It was like this huge celestial dome with purple bright stars. And I felt I was connecting to my origins and to my mother and the mother of my mother and the mother of the mother of the mother of the mother back into the mother of all mothers, infinity. And then to my daughter and the daughter of my daughter and the daughter of my daughter. And it was just like this lineage of women, infinity on both sides. It was so beautiful, at the same time these things forming and deriving from this purple stars. All the love connections linking us to the mother of all mothers, and it was so strong, and really I just fell in love with her. From that day on, I visit her practically every day. I stayed in the community for about a month, and I was feeling very strongly the pull to come and live there. But I had many doubts. I mean, just a few months ago I had this feeling of living in Israel. Now I had that same feeling here. The bottom line was really that what I was feeling was to dedicate myself fully to my spiritual life, to surrendering myself absolutely to this divine thing, whatever that meant to me. So I was pondering about these things, and I asked my spiritual guides for help. I asked for a clear sign that this was the thing to do, that this was the best thing for me to do, to come and live in this rainforest. Now, in this particular spiritual path that I'm in, we sing songs, and songs are received through divine inspiration. It has become part of the tradition that songs are often given as presents to someone. Someone receives a song, and sometimes this person offers that song to someone else. So this was my proposal. Send me a song. Send me a song through someone. Have someone receive a song and give it to me. And then I'll know that that's a clear sign, a clear guidance that this is true and that this decision is for my highest good. Sometime later, it was actually the day of the 93rd birthday of this godmother. We were in a spiritual work, and in the middle of the work, my guide comes to me and says, no, that's not the way it works. We're not going to coerce you through signs into making a decision. It's really about love. It's always about love. Don't you love her? Meaning the 93-year-old woman that I had fell in love with. Don't you love this forest? Don't you love this place? The doors are open. You've been offered this, but the answer comes from love. You don't say yes because we send you signs. You say yes out of love. So I was in the middle of this, just tears rolling down my eyes and feeling really, really, really all this love. So I said yes. Right then and there, I said yes, yes to this life, yes to this forest, yes to being near this woman. A week later, I was getting ready to leave. My time to come back to Mexico had arrived. I was packing and getting ready my stuff, and then I received a WhatsApp message from my daughter, and it literally said, I have a present for you from God. And there it was. She received a song from me. She had received a song from me. She didn't know anything about the process that I had been living. And the song speaks exactly about that. It says, love is what shows you the path. Love is the force of God, literally. It was really very beautiful to receive that confirmation, but the interesting thing is that the confirmation came after I had said yes, after I had learned the lesson for myself, and after I had guided myself with love. I went back to Mexico with the decision made. I started selling all of my belongings, my whole house that was in storage, books, furniture, everything. I also needed to raise money in order to actually go back into this community and live there. Right away, I was offered to work on a beautiful film project. It was a 1-year deal, and I really didn't want to stay so long in Mexico. I had this sense of urgency of going back to my grandmother, back in the forest. Every day I'd think of her. Every day I'd think about this place. I'd wake up thinking about this place. In the end, we came to a very good deal. I'd stay for the whole year project, and somewhere in the middle, I'd be given a month and a half to leave and go visit my old lady. It was a good deal. So a few months later, this was December 2017, I was back in the rainforest. This time I was staying for a month and a half. And this time round was really far more challenging, far more challenging. From one part, I was more aware of the challenges of living there, but most of all, I started to seriously, and I mean seriously, freak out regarding my own mental health. The things that began to happen in my head were a sort of leap, and I had real serious doubts of totally losing my mind. I started to hear so much stuff that I could not control. I literally could not control what was going on in my mind. I was hearing things and receiving all these visions that I had no elements to judge if they were true or not. It was a very disturbing time, and I became really afraid. At the same time, I was really becoming more aware of the challenges inherent in living in this community, far away from everything and far away from my family. But the pull to be there and the love that I felt for this place and for this woman was so strong. At some point in January 2018, I had this moment with myself where I just sat down and squarely faced the fact that I could not go on like this, full of fear of going crazy, full of doubts, and with all this turmoil. So I remember sitting there, and I was close to the grave of the founder of the community and the beloved guide and teacher for all of us who are in this particular path. I just sat there and looked at my options, and this is what I saw. I can go back and put all of this behind me and do my best to lead a normal life and close the door to all of this. Or I can simply accept that whatever is happening in my brain is happening, and I can continue going on this ride and discover where it will take me, and accept that I am receiving what I am receiving, and trust. So that's the choice I made. It was really, really an act of total surrender, of total trust to the love that I was feeling, of trusting my guides and just saying, here I am. And if I've gone crazy, I've gone crazy, but I'm still saying yes. I'm saying yes to this. I'm saying yes to what I'm being offered. This whole journey has had more to do with surrender than any other thing. And this was really a climax moment. In a way, I was surrendering my sanity in the name of this greater love that I was experiencing. So with all my fears next to me, I said yes. Yes, I'm going forward. Yes, I trust. Yes, I'm here. During that time, I had in mind making a documentary. That's what I used to do for a living. I worked in documentary film production. And there are some fascinating women in this community. Also, I could see myself reflected in them. Women who had done what I was wanting to do 30 years before. Women who simply felt the call, and this call was so strong that they were willing to give everything up for this path, for this forest, for this community. And you see these women, I mean, it's a tough life back in there. Their devotion, their total devotion, their discipline, their faith, and their love. They really are amazing. I was already making a few interviews when a friend of mine tells me about this man who has traveled all over the world and has houses in these special spots. And he built a home in this community and has been living there for a few years now. And I thought, this sounds like an interesting character. Someone who's been all around and has the means to build a house anywhere in the world, why choose here? But I was really hooked with the idea of making a documentary with only women, so I kind of let the thought pass. About a week later, I'm in one of our spiritual works and I see this person sitting on a bench. He called my attention right away. I immediately felt something. Some time went by, and in the next work he was standing right in front of me, and I just couldn't stop looking at him. Every time I caught myself just looking at this person and looking at this person. I felt a very strong pull, but in a kind of way that also turned on like an alarm, like it was too intense and better not go there. But at the same time, this idea that he would be a very good character kept on playing. So I put it in the divine hands and I said, if this is the right person for my project, you'll bring this person to me. I'm not going to look for him. In the evening of that same day, we're in the celebration of the whole community. It was the 35th anniversary of its foundation. We're in this big circle dance and everybody's there, and the circle starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, till at some point they ask some people to jump into the center and make a smaller circle inside, so we have 2 circles and we can all fit in. The people on my right go forward, and the next thing I know is that I'm holding this person's hand, and oh my God, here it goes again. In a way, it was a similar feeling that what happened to me when I met my godmother. It was this rush of total love, and there was so much energy there. And these words start just repeating in my mind, and I just start saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. This exists for me, this exists for me, meaning this love exists for me. At that moment, I just felt that if that was possible, everything was possible. The circle dance went on for a while, and when it finished, we both automatically turned towards each other. We started talking. I started telling him about my project and what I had in mind, and in that conversation he invites me to come and visit his house, to come over for lunch in a couple of days' time. So 2 days later I go over. We found each other next to the river and we walked together from there up to his house. We enter the gate into this beautiful garden, and then there's this long corridor. So we're walking down this corridor that leads to the house. It's a beautiful corridor surrounded with vines. And I suddenly feel this wind come from the right side. And I hear the voice of my brother. And he literally says, "Do you like your new house?" I I was startled and I just laughed to myself. And then we continue walking. And we enter this place. This place is just unbelievable. Anywhere in the world it would be remarkable, but here in the middle of the Amazon rainforest, it is just completely out of this world. We go in and he starts showing me around, and I walk behind him along this small corridor, and we enter into this amazing wooden hall, somewhere around 20 meters wide, with an altitude of about 9 meters, and a huge, beautiful wooden staircase that flows from above from 2 corridors. It is surrounded with windows that are stained with sacred geometry designs. The corridors above are surrounded by 6 rooms. Each room has a different color. Then he leads me outside when we find a huge Mayan calendar made with colored mosaic, about 8 meters long, next to a pool about the same size with sculptures of dolphins at the end. And then we walk up to the 3rd floor, and we enter this living room that's filled with all kinds of beautiful objects that have been brought here from sacred sites from all over the world. And adjacent to this living room is another room that has a very interesting wooden structure, and on the floor it has a spiral with crystals. Then outside this room you have a terrace that has this view of the whole rainforest. We sit down, I start making him this small interview. We have lunch, and I'm just mesmerized by the energy of this place. After lunch, we go inside another living room, and as we enter, the first thing I see is a tapestry that says Mexico, and it has the Aztec calendar embroidered there. The Aztec calendar is what my brother had tattooed on his heart. We sit down, and then there's another Aztec calendar on a brass plate right next to me. And we're in this conversation to kind of end the day. And at the end, I just tell him, is it possible for me to go into the mandala, into the crystal spiral? And he says, yes, but come in a couple of days. We'll drink ayahuasca and you go in. So this sounds like a super exciting plan for me. These were my last days in the forest before I had to go back to Mexico. So 2 days later, I'm back in there. It was actually my daughter's birthday, which made it even more special. And we go up to the 3rd floor, and he says that his guides told him that only I was going to drink ayahuasca. He explains to me how to use the spiral, and he asks me if I want him to stay or if I want to be there on my own. And I say that I'd prefer to be there on my own. He gives me the tea, and he leaves me to it. I sat there and meditated for a while, waiting for the force of the tea to arrive. After a while, I go into the spiral, walking in between these crystals, and when I arrive at the center, I look up and I just can't believe my eyes, because I realize that it is the exact same room that I had seen back in that vision in Tzfat. The wooden structure is a Merkaba. It is exactly the place that I saw 2 years before. Only the Hebrew letters are not raining around me, but I just recognized the place. And the first amazing thing is that in that second, all my doubts ended, and I knew that I wasn't going crazy, and that these things that I had been seeing and these guidances that I had been receiving were real, and this place existed, and I was actually there. Back in Mexico, I literally woke up every single day thinking about this place, praying that I'd be able to come back soon. Not long after arriving back, I started receiving images and information about this place, spiritually. About a month later, I began receiving guidance about things that I had to share with this man. Information not only about the place, but also stuff that I had been receiving along my journey. By the time I contacted him, I already had a bulk of information and things that I was being guided to send to him. I'm thinking, this is crazy, I had literally seen this person 3 times in my life, and now I'm sending him pages and pages and pages of stuff that's a mix of things from my diary and things about his house. But he knew, and his first reply is, when do you come live here? So from then on, we began having this correspondence. Mainly, I'm sending him stuff about the energetic flow of this place. It was as if they were starting to show me the inner anatomy of this thing that he had built. And that is where we go into the actual information. So if you want to join me, we're going into our next video.